Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Yes, we're going to do a rambling rampage. Number 5. Um, you may see a few extra of these over the next couple, 3, 4 weeks or so, because I've been two reasons. One is I like doing these, so you're going to have to put up with it. But the real reason is that I'm doing some projects that you don't even really want to hear about. There's things about with the lawnmower and the garden and so anyway, I'm doing a project in the house. Now that one, when I finish it, I may show that to you. I'm basically replacing that uh, my senior moment, my microwave oven that sits right above my regular stove, and it's a built-in. And so those things are expensive, and I've had two of them go bad on me now in 10 years, and I thought never again. So I took them out and I put a regular countertop type microwave in the kitchen, and I'm going to turn that into some shelf space and some smart storage for my frying pans, my stainless steel frying pans and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm going to be working on that stuff, so I'm not going to be out here much accomplishing much of anything, even though I have several projects I really want to do, like finish the one uh, with that garage light that came apart, and I'm going to make a couple of different lights out of that run off of Ryobi. I still want to finish that, but at this point, I haven't done anything to it. So anyway, so I decided I might as well do a rambling as I do anything around here. So that's what we're doing. One of the things I wanted to talk about is I was thinking about, what this kind of leads is, what do what's a normal day for you? Now, I will tell you, I'm retired. I love it. I retired out here in a small town 10 years ago after my wife at the time passed away unexpectedly. Um, and since then, you know who and I got together, and we live out here very happily. Things are very comfortable, and quite honestly, every day she's an accountant, so she's in her office virtually every day, even though she's not working. I mean, she's working, still has clients in that. So as a CPA, she's mostly into taxes, and so January to April, I don't even see much of her. So, but the rest of the year, I still come out here and give her time to do that and do things that she wants to do. And I spend here, and that's what keeps us probably sane and not trying to kill each other, being around each other all the time. So this is like my little safe haven for her. In my normal day, as I come out here and I piddle and do some of the things I kind of feel like doing or thinking about, and that's why I got to try and make one, like that light. But I have been spending a lot of time on other things, including training the dogs. Got her trained pretty good now, huh? So, yeah, Missy, she's getting pretty big, too, I have to tell you. So, but it's quite a trip watching those two and getting her to learn to listen to me. It's been a chore, but she's starting to really pay attention, and she wants to do what we tell her. So that's a good sign that eventually she'll start learning to understand and do whatever I want. Have you ever seen the movie with John Wayne? He played Big Jake, I think it was the movie, where his grandson was kidnapped, and he went to get kill the kidnappers and get the grandkid back. He had a dog, and he would just tell the dog, "Dog," and the dog knew what to do, and dog, go with him, and the dog would go with the other guy, and that sort of thing. So anyway, that's what I love about Annie. Has almost reached that point. She knows what I want before I tell her. So I'd love to have my dogs being able to do that sort of thing, to get to that same plateau that John Wayne had with his dog named Dog. So anyway, she's getting there. I don't really like to give them treats per se. When they ask for something, usually I give them a little piece of rawhide. So, but training them has really taken a lot of my time out of doing things here in the shop, spending time with her, talking to her, and that sort of thing. So anyway, that's kind of how my day goes, mostly. So because I'm not doing stuff in the shop, when I do come in here, instead of working around her or on the lawnmower or the riding mower or whatever, I still like to come in here and do a certain amount of watching YouTube, getting ideas, looking on my computer, so that I can kind of research new parts or new things that I see that I didn't know that even existed. Or how does that work? Today I kind of was looking at solar controllers. And one of the things I realized is that really a solar controller, it does a little more functions than just a converter. But all it really a solar controller is either a buck converter or a boost converter. And the more I learn to understand how those work, the more it helps me to understand how to use those solar panels maybe to do some of the weird things that I want to do. So I'm working on that, and that's one of the things I was kind of researching and reading about was how does a solar controller work. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. That's how my normal day goes. It's really nice and quiet. I really enjoy my retirement because that's what I'm doing. Not on any set schedule. I almost never go out anywhere anymore, but that's okay. I actually enjoy being here. The only time I really go out is when I go out on YouTube and watch something or learn something out there. Because there is a lot of things out there, and I don't have to go to Grand Canyon to appreciate seeing what it looks like anymore. Not like it used to be where the only time you ever knew is because your grandpa said, yep, I went to Grand Canyon once, and he tells you how it all looked and everything. That's when you have the videos about it, it's a lot better than listening to grandpa tell the story about what it looks like. So I don't necessarily have to experience all these things firsthand to really experience most of them. So I like being around here. This is very comfortable for me. I do watch a lot of nomad type and van life type of videos. I don't know why, but I've just been attracted to that whole thing. If I was young, I'd be doing van life. I can tell you right now. I'd have to at least try it for a while. But now, there ain't no way you get me in a van to live out in that and put up with the things that I would have to put up with, like limited water use and bathroom facilities. That would be a real pain, literally. Anyway, I'm rambling about something I didn't want to talk about. But those are the types of videos I kind of watch, and I'm intrigued with it. I do. Once in a while, I'll suggest to them how they can make their life a little easier out there. But that's one of the reasons why I do the Ryobi stuff that I do is because really, I think that if I was in a van, everything I would do that would actually run off of Ryobi batteries. And then all I would have to do is have a charging station to be able to charge those Ryobi batteries up and keep enough of them on hand to be able to rotate them. You could run your whole life through Ryobi batteries if you wanted to. But I wouldn't want to do that in a house living. I like plugging in and not worrying about how much it's pulling off of the circuit of the grid. So anyway, that's why I do some of those projects. Even though you kind of wonder, well, why would you even do them? That's why. Speaking of which, last night, right at dusk, our power went out. And it was only out for a couple hours, but that's enough to be an annoyance, but not enough to want to turn on the generator and get that all plugged in and all that. So I still wanted to have the computer. It was at dusk, so all I did is I got Medusa out, and if you do a search on the name Medusa in my channel, you'll see what I'm talking about. A Ryobi light, an LED string lights. And I put that in the living room and used that for light for a couple hours, and it worked great for that. I really did like having it. It was all set, ready to go on its own stand. So, also, I use this. This is the Ryobi battery voltmeter that you can plug in here, and you see your voltage. You adjust the amount of voltage. I just set it to 13 volts. Plugged my inverter into here. This is just a 300 watt inverter, and lo and behold, I was able to run my little computer workstation area off of my little inverter for that period of time too. To get internet, I just used my phone to connect to share the network connection on out to the internet. It's kind of slow on that thing, but it worked. So I had internet connection, so I could go out and see things and see what's going on still, and know how long before I get my power back and things like that, just by hooking it up. Plus, it enabled me to do some of the things I do with my computer from there and in the house, even though we didn't have any power for a couple hours. So it worked out pretty good. I did have to get a couple of fans out because it's pretty hot here. So I did run a couple of fans on Ryobi. So that 2 hour outage turned out to be no big deal at all. I was actually quite pleased with how simple I was able to turn all those things over and plug in just so that we could get by not be so inconvenienced while the power was out right at the end of the day like that. So that's what's annoying about this area, and that's why I say I look at things as fogs, forced off-grid survival. It was only for a couple hours this time. I had what I needed to be able to get by with the Ryobi batteries. I didn't have to pull out my big battery packs or anything, but it worked. This thing actually worked sweet. I was really very pleased with it. I used my 5 amp hour and my 9 amp hour batteries to kind of keep everything, to plug everything in that I used. I used a 9 amp on my lighting, and I used the other 9 amp one here to give me the most power, the 9 amp hour. And I used the 5 amp batteries for the some of the regular flashlights and things like that. So anyway, I am quite pleased for the first time. I'm starting to get things set up so that it's easy to transition over to no power if I have to. One of the first things I do is I get on my phone and I check to see if the outage is known. And once it's been established, they know that there is an outage. They usually can pretty quickly tell you how soon they'll have it fixed. Last night they said 10:30. It actually came on around 9 o'clock, I'd say. It had gone off somewhere between 6:30 and 7. So it was out for a couple hours. So it came on earlier than they said, but that gives me an idea of what to expect as a rough idea. So, and that obviously that time can change, but it still gives you, it's better than not knowing anything except just sitting there. So it is nice to have that feature in today's world, that when I do lose power, at least I know, hopefully, when I'll get it back. And I have had it tell me that one time it went out for 2 days, and it said right on there it would be 2 days for it to be ready. Needless to say, that time, a year or two ago, that time I had the generator going, and that thing was a godsend for that incident when that happened. So I think I'm getting the right thing going now. Things are getting more comfortable. And like I said, not all these outages are long-term where you want to fire up something really big and major either, necessarily. Because last night all I did was really needed Medusa and this thing, because she sat there and read one of her books, and I sat there and just kind of fooled around on the computer and the internet for that period of time. I could easily have taken one of my other battery packs in and plugged it in. We could have watched a movie instead if we'd wanted to. I could have plugged the TV and the VCR into my 100 amp hour battery pack, and then I could have run it from that. So being off grid doesn't have to be totally inconvenient. We still like to have some of the niceties, and I think so far I've managed to put together a fairly good FOGS program for the type of outages that I have to put up with when you live out here in the countryside in the small Midwest USA, because outages are something that we kind of go through out here from time to time. And I guarantee you there are areas of the country that have it even more. And wait till this spring. We're going to be getting into some of those those rolling outages, as they call them. And wait till that starts happening all over the country. So you might as well get yourself ready if you haven't. If you haven't watched anything about my fogs, I actually have a playlist of some of the fogs ideas that I've had to show how to use all your battery power, things that you might have on hand, and how to use them for emergency use while you don't have power. Because at first I was using my tractor battery out of my riding mower as one of my base battery packs. Bit of a nuisance, but it works if you had to. So one of the things my project's coming up here soon is, one thing you can do is you don't need to buy a big expensive generator like I did necessarily, depending upon what your needs would be. And if it is really only going to be temporarily, you could very easily take your car, hook up an inverter to it, and turn that into a generator so that you can use that and use your battery on your car as your power source and every hour or so start it up and let it run for 15 minutes, and you could get that kind of power coming out of that basically using your car as a turning on and off a generator and your battery in your car, as long as you don't let it run down too far that you have to jump start it again. And yes, I did do that once, but that's a matter of setting up things so that you know what's going on. So what I think I'd like to do is make myself, and there's a guy out there that has done this, but he sells them, but I think he's made it way too complicated and too fancy. I want something simple. I'm going to put together a power pack, and I guess you would have to call it a car generator converter is what I'll probably call it, something like that. Basically, it'll be like a tub with a lid, so that it's kind of weather resistant, so they can sit out even if it's raining. I can hook it up and it can sit there on the ground, this box with all the electronic components in it, and not get wet. So, and then from there I would just plug in maybe 2 power cords that I can take into the house and be able to plug things off of that, so that you can get some temporary up to probably 800 watts easily, but maybe even as much as 1,000 watts depending upon your alternator output at an idle. And you could check those things, and if you wanted to, you could boost that up a little bit by giving yourself a gas stick that you can put between the pedal and the seat to bring that up to about 2,000 RPMs, and then that alternator will actually peak on the output that it puts out. So if it's rated at 120 amps, you can get 20 amps out of that then, potentially up to, by running it at that little higher RPM. Of course, it's going to use more gas when you do that, but it just depends on what you need. So you can actually, if you check in a little research on your car, you can turn that into a power generator for temporary purposes up to 800 to 1,000 watts easily, without any major investment or any major thing that you would have to do to your car. And you have instant generator power rather than buying a 1,000 watt generator that you can put on your back porch. You can just use your vehicle instead if you wanted to. You have the battery pack built in. You have everything there except for the converting to the 110 volts, so you can run your stuff in your house. And that's what the little converter box would do. And I would have it so that it would have jumper cables that I can then stick on the battery, shut the hood, set the box right there, run the cords in, and then I have my power. The only thing I want to do is I do want to get a monitoring system set up also, so I can keep an eye on that battery while I'm inside the house, so that I know if that battery's starting to get low on me. And so that's one of the things that I want to look at, because if the battery goes low and it starts beeping at you, like these inverters will do when you have too low a voltage because the battery's running dead, they start beeping, then they shut down. You wouldn't be able to do that unless you had some kind of remote monitoring of your whatever unit you're using for an inverter. So that's one of the projects I want to do, is I want to put everything in a small tub, cords and everything, so if I need it, I can take it out, pull it up and set it up next to the car, hook it up in 3 minutes, start the car, run the cords inside, and in less than 10 minutes I have 800 to 1,000 watts of electrical power in the house. So I think that would make a great little kit, and once I get that designed and put together, I'll share it with you and let you see it. So these are some of the things that I really got in my head I can't get out, that I keep thinking of, and the old body don't work as fast as the mind does these days. What used to take a day now takes me a week. So the ideas keep coming, but getting them done sometimes is actually very difficult. So I have some other ideas I want to talk about, but this is kind of rambling on, so I'm going to let you go. If you have any questions or you want to talk about any of this, I'm interested. If you want to share how your daily routine goes, go for it. So hopefully next time, I got some really good stories out of my past that I think you really would enjoy too. So I might share some of those with you if I can keep the rambling down to a minimum. And maybe I can do these a little more often until I get all that off my chest at least. So my list keeps growing instead of getting smaller for the Rambling Rampage series as to what I think we should talk about. And we'll start talking about some of those things too. So Any questions, any comments, leave them down below. If you want to share your experience about something, I'm always willing to hear about it. Maybe I'll even share it once I hear it from you. So just leave your comments down below. If you learned something here or you like this video, hit that like button. It lets me know that I'm doing the right thing. Most importantly though, please get your cup of coffee and come on back, because I'm nowhere near done. Thanks. We'll see you guys again very soon.